Folks, welcome in to SportsBookReview.com. It is Sunday, Week 4 action. This is the closing line presented by SportsBookReview.com. I'm Donnie Seymour. He's Kyle Purviance. And we got 1 hour to get you ready for kickoff. An exciting week and a lot of information flowing at the last moment. Games moving from times, games moving on days, and a lot of people in and out. But this is what we're here for, Kyle. Set these people up in the chat box. Let's have some fun and get after it.
Yeah, it's the fastest hour of the week, right? Sunday morning, it's a fast hour. And, good news, that Patriots-Chiefs game just moving to Monday. That's not a big deal. We get a doubleheader on Monday night. So for as apprehensive as everything's been throughout the week, I think it turned out best case scenario. We got that Houston-Minnesota games going off. So I'm excited about today. Got some DFS lines in, got some parlays in. I'm feeling good about today, man. I'm ready to get after it.
No, me too. And thank you guys for the chat box. 53 people were waiting before the show even started. But the bigger news here is I did a show on Friday, both myself and Jason Radowitz did the Major League Baseball show Friday afternoon. There were 69,900 people that subscribe to the channel here at sportsbook.com. Now I'm looking 70,200. We are gaining hundreds of followers by the day. This is fantastic stuff. Thank you guys for chiming in here. Steven, Sean, Derek, Marcus, Cody, Melissa, David, Gus, James, Matt. Thank you for tuning in. We got an hour to get after these games and a lot of information to go over. Let's start. We usually go right in rotation order, but one game that was supposed to be starting at 1 o'clock now is moved to 4:25. We're going to hit them all right in a row by time. 2:53, 2:54. 1 o'clock, New Orleans and Detroit here, Kyle. 6 out of every 10 tickets in here coming on the New Orleans Saints. But when we take a look across the board, opens up at 3.5. We're seeing a stone cold 3 across the board. I wholeheartedly agree with this because when you're taking a look at the New Orleans Saints, I don't think they should be favored on the road in any aspect. But now you're looking at coming into this game. I'm down on Drew Brees this year. Alvin Kamara is a sensational running back. But outside of Alvin Kamara, what are we dealing with on this Saints offense? No Michael Thomas going to be in this game. We thought he might be able to fight through that high ankle injury. But then you look overall in the defense, Marshawn Lattimore is going to be out. Janoris Jenkins is also going to be out. This team is limping into Detroit, and Detroit is getting healthy at the right time at the wide receiver position. I think they'll be able to score points. And I've been on Detroit all week long. The 4.5s, the 4s, they've all disappeared. It's down to 3. I think Detroit is live in this game. I'm not a believer in New Orleans being a favorite. I like the Detroit Lions in this game here, Kyle.
Yeah, we agree right off the bat. Marshawn Lattimore, Janoris Jenkins, no Jared Cook as well. So that defense is banged up. I'm never a big proponent of Drew Brees on the road. He's much more effective at home. I think the Lions could win this game outright. I like them at +3. And one little prop that I like for this game with Lattimore and Janoris Jenkins being out, the over 5 catches for Kenny Golladay feels pretty safe to me. I like the Lions in this game, and I like the +3.
Yeah, we're taking a look at the over-under, also taking a market shot, too. Pinnacle opened up earlier in the week at 55. That's down to 52 across the board. Actually, 52 at Pinnacle, 52 at Chris. But you still do have some sports books. William Hill out of Nevada, 54. FanDuel, 52.5. DraftKings, some New Jersey books at 53. I sort of come off that a little bit. Am I still looking for points in this game? Absolutely. But again, I just get back to the New Orleans offense. Outside of Alvin Kamara and having Drew Brees as your quarterback, it's not an explosive offense. It's more of a 7 or 8 play drive, dump out of the backfield, see if Kamara can make a big play, which he can, but you don't have a quarterback that's going to be able to shoot that football downfield in order to beat that Detroit Lions secondary. It's going to be a lot of underneath stuff. So if you're looking to carry the tide here, you're going to want to see what Matthew Stafford does, which I still think Matthew Stafford should have a pretty good day. All 3 wide receivers back healthy, nice little decent running game, good tight end TJ Hawkinson. So I'm looking at Detroit to win this football game, but that 52, Kyle, any feeling on the total in this? Because it feels about right at 52, but it just feels a little bit too high because of that offense. And again, outside of the last 2 minutes, if New Orleans is down 2 touchdowns, they'll be able to move it down the field. But during the game, I just don't see the explosiveness.
Yeah, exactly. Traquan Smith, et cetera. I mean, Emmanuel Sanders, not really the same explosive player that he's used to. But you bring up a great point. If this game is 30-20 Detroit and there's a minute 45 left, you can bet your ass that Drew Brees is trying to throw down the field and score a touchdown, right? Even if so there is that sort of hesitancy with it. I stayed away from the total. I would probably lean slightly the under, but I'd be nervous about it. For me, it's just a straight up pick. I'm taking Detroit.
Yeah, I know you talk a lot of Jared Cook's not going to play in this game. Marcus Davenport, the defensive end, Janoris Jenkins, Marshawn Lattimore, Andreas Pete on the offensive line, obviously Michael Thomas. So you have a lot of key contributors to the New Orleans Saints team that are sitting on the sideline and still coming in here to Detroit as a favorite. And again, I just don't think that's going to be the case in this one. Let's keep moving along. 255, 256, Arizona and Carolina. Big news out of Arizona. DeAndre Hopkins is going to give it a go. Also, Christian Kirk is going to give it a go in this game as well. So giving it a go means they are going to show up. And in the NFL, if you're playing, there are no excuses. But having said that, if you were really going to be a game time decision, does that mean during the game you're only one play away from sitting it back out? That's what you have to decipher when you watch DeAndre Hopkins and obviously Christian Kirk in this game. But you should be able to move the football if you're Arizona and Carolina, the same exact thing. Look at this, though. Almost 8 out of every 10 tickets here coming in on Arizona. Line opens up early in the week, Kyle, at 4. Now we're sitting on 3 at game day. 51, which has moved up as the total to 52.5 in that range throughout some of the books out here offshore. I got to tell you, I really like Arizona. It's a good football team. It took a step back last week, didn't play all that well against Detroit. But coming into this game, you should be able to move the football against Carolina. But those injuries are too much for me. It's another one of those situations I look at like with New Orleans going on the road as a favorite. I just don't think they deserve to be the favorite. If I'm looking at Arizona in this game, -3, I don't think they should be the favorite here on the road. Not to say that, well, wait a second, they're a better football team. I do think they're better overall than the Carolina Panthers, but I don't like them in that position of -3 on the road. -3 at home, sure, but on the road, a little bit weary here.
Yeah, I think I'm still leaning Arizona. DeAndre Hopkins has done this throughout his career. I've had him on plenty of fantasy football teams where it's questionable week after week after week after week, and he goes out and balls out. So I'm not all that concerned about DeAndre Hopkins. The fact that he's going to go lets me know that he's ready to play. I actually like Arizona. Carolina just struggles so much stopping the run, and now you have a dynamic running quarterback. You have a solid running back in Kenyon Drake. He has got a full complement of weapons. I'm leaning towards the Arizona Cardinals here. I don't have this in my parlay. I was kind of waiting on the news, and by then we got busy setting everything up for this. But right now, I would lean Arizona. I obviously like the 3 more than the 3.5 because in case this is a 3-point game, you just have the push and it doesn't destroy your parlays. But I like Arizona on the road right now over Carolina.
It should be a good game and it should be an offensive game. So obviously, if you're looking at the wide receiver position for Carolina, I think that is a plus advantage. Also, keep in mind, Budda Baker is not going to play one of the better safeties in the NFL. And we talk a lot about on DFS stuff, Robbie Anderson getting deep behind the safeties. This could be one of those games that gets after. But the one thing you do know is you need pace and you need offensive structure to get over. So even if some players are banged up, it's not as if DeAndre Hopkins is banged up and they go in Arizona, Cliff Kingsbury, you know what? Let's slow it down this week and really take our time with Kyler Murray. That's not what they do. And on the same side, opposite, you do have some really good burners on that Carolina offense. They're not going to slow it down either as the only way that we're going to be able to beat the Arizona Cardinals. So I'm looking towards a good game in this. I don't have an official play in this game, but again, I like to pick each and every game on the show. I'm going to take Carolina plus the 3 points. And this game plays to an over for me, as I just talked about. You know, if you're being I think it's going to be, 27-25. Sure, it certainly could be that. But the way these two teams operate on offense and the defenses that they have and some injuries to the secondary there with Arizona, I'm going to lead towards the over. What are you looking here both sides in this game?
Yeah, I like the over. I think you're absolutely right. Fast-paced game. You talked about the injuries to the Arizona secondary. Carolina secondary is obviously not very good. They can't stop the run. Both of these defenses are very vulnerable. Both head coaches want to, sort of the younger head coaches coming out of college, both want to move the ball. There's going to be a lot of clock stoppages, et cetera. Of course, no Christian McCaffrey for Carolina, but Mike Davis looks really good as the replacement back. Targeted 17 times over the last couple of weeks. It's crazy. You don't think of him that way, but that's what they're doing. So I lean the over in this game as well. But I still think the Arizona Cardinals, hopefully I'm jinxing them a bit. I, like you, don't have an official play on this, and I'd like them to lose. So my 49ers have an easier path in the NFC. But I like Arizona, and I do like the over in this game. Again, no official play from me on this. But if I was picking it, that's the way I would go.
250 people live in the chat box here. Marcus Terry says Carolina sneaky stack in this football game. M's interested to see Arizona off the loss and how they react on the road. So it wouldn't surprise me to see them ball up. Yeah, it is a good spot. It's a young football team coming off a little bit of adversity. It's a team theoretically they should beat. But we know how that changes coming east to west. We'll see how that plays out. Here's a good game here. Not because these two teams are actually good, but I really enjoyed the breakdown of this all week long. 257, 258. And that's Jacksonville versus Cincinnati. Gardner Minshew, we know, is going to go up against rookie Joe Burrow. About a 50-50 ticket split in this game. And I wholeheartedly agree with the line movement here. In the earlier shows this week that we did on Tuesday and Thursday, right here at sportsbookreview.com, I said, look, Joe Burrow, as a favorite who's never won in the NFL with a horrendous roster behind him, cannot be favored by 3.5. It doesn't make any sense. Here we are sitting on game day, -1 at some of the sharpest books out there. Pinnacle, Chris, -1.5. William Hill, 1.5. PointsBet out of New Jersey, 1. I agree with that line movement here because it
Yeah.
comes down to simple principle. And it seems like almost a running theme right here. I don't think New Orleans should be a favorite on the road. Arizona, again, same thing, -3 on the road. When I look at Joe Burrow in Cincinnati, show me you can beat somebody, Cincinnati. Why would I lay 3.5 early in the week with a team that just does not win and doesn't have the talent to win? I'm looking at this game coming in with the Jacksonville Jaguars. They got hammered by the Miami Dolphins, but it was a week and a half ago. They have extra rest and preparation time. They're going up against, to me, Cincinnati, the least talented defense in the entire National Football League. Gardner Minshew should have an hour to throw the football. DJ Chark is coming back in this football game. This is a markedly better team that they're going to face, meaning Cincinnati, than what you saw last week with Philadelphia Eagles and Greg Ward. This team can move. This team will be able to hit deep shots. This team's going to be able to take one-on-one coverage and burn it. I look for some points in this football game, but again, I think Jacksonville is going into Cincinnati winning this game because there's no way Cincinnati should be favored over anybody anywhere, even Division III football teams, Kyle.
Yep, I absolutely agree, and I feel a whole lot better about it now that it's +1, -1, because I've been backdoored by Joe Burrow twice this year already. So for some reason, I have a little bit of nerves on this, but I like Jacksonville to win this game. And now that it's 1.5, I feel a whole lot better about it. I do think there's points. Good news for Cincinnati. Joe Mixon is going to go ahead and play today. Now, you just wonder, he popped up on the injury report really late. So how effective is Joe Mixon actually going to be? He's not the most durable of running backs in the NFL. So you could see some Giovanni Bernard as a DFS sort of punt play. I did see the question earlier, not to get too far off topic, Chubb or Jacobs. I like Nick Chubb today, even though Kareem Hunt's going to play. I think they rely on Nick Chubb quite a bit there in Dallas. But I like Jacksonville in this game. You mentioned DJ Chark being back. That really opens up the passing game for them, gives them that deep threat that they need. So now Keelan Cole and Laviska Shenault, they can do all this stuff underneath that they like to do. James Robinson. Cincinnati's defense, if you look at the numbers, it's overachieved so far, especially against the pass, etc. But I like Jacksonville in this game. And I think they win it by, about a touchdown. So I'm pretty happy with the +1 number. So I like Jacksonville quite a bit. Yeah.
Jacksonville by a touchdown. I mean, you're looking at the over-under, open up at 44.5, goes to 49. I agree because, again, both these defenses stink, but it just comes down to Gardner Minshew right now on an NFL level is a better quarterback than Joe Burrow is right now. And also, again, this isn't like we're taking, and I used the same equation during the week. When you take a look at the Pittsburgh Steelers and they put in Big Ben in 2004 as a rookie, that was a Super Bowl ready team. Cincinnati is horrendous. They have some good wide receivers. AJ Green's over the hill. Boyd is a very good secondary option. We'll see what T. Higgins turns into. He has some good running backs behind them. But again, he's still a rookie in the NFL, and their team still stinks. They shouldn't be favored in this game. I think they lose that one outright. Let's keep going here. Good game at 1 o'clock, 259, 260. That's the Dallas Cowboys and the Cleveland Browns. Opened up at 4.5, and early in the week, and even in my Pick 6 contest, taking Cleveland at the 4.5. It's now down to 3.5 across the board, and rightfully so in this game. Getting healthier are the Cleveland Browns. Olivier Vernon's going to play in this game. Obviously, Denzel Ward's still going to play in this game also. Kareem Hunt activated for the game. So you had that 1-2 punch with Kareem Hunt in the backfield with Nick Chubb. And you look on the Dallas side of the football, losing another offensive lineman. We'll see how long Tyron Smith can hang in this football game. But I look at this as a one-possession game. And if I think that's going to be a coin flip as a one-possession, I'm going to take the 4.5 points in this one. The only thing keeping me back here is Dak Prescott's a way better quarterback right now than Baker Mayfield is. If Mayfield can stay within himself, use his running backs, they are going to have some advantages against that really porous Dallas defense. And if I take a look at both defenses lined up side by side, I trust the Cleveland Browns defense a whole hell of a lot more than I trust the Dallas Cowboys defense.
Yeah, and I hope you're wrong. And I hate betting on Dallas. It's probably my least favorite team to bet on. And I wish I would have waited till this morning because I did put them in my Pick 6. I took Dallas -4.5. I just think it's a must win at home. I don't know that I trust Baker Mayfield. There's going to be fans in the stand, probably more fans in this stadium than any other stadium in the league cheering on Dallas, and they need this win. And I sort of look at the games, close loss to Seattle. They had a shot in that game. Of course, the win over Atlanta, and then that week 1 loss to the Rams. I think all three of those teams, even Atlanta, is better than Cleveland. I see a lot of passing in this game. They take advantage of the slot. I like CeeDee Lamb quite a bit. Even Amari Cooper, I know Denzel Ward is back, but how healthy is he? I just don't trust Baker Mayfield on the road, so I went ahead and locked in Dallas -4.5. Now you're getting at 3.5 and 4. I like the Cowboys quite a bit at home, even though I don't trust Mike McCarthy to make any good decisions. I just don't. He's the worst coach in the NFL, and I'm including Adam Gase and everyone else in that discussion. Mike McCarthy is an absolutely dreadful coach. But nonetheless, I have Dallas, and like I said, I have them at -4.5 in my pick six.
Yeah, and a lot of it came down for me is because Dallas, to me, again, is one of the, if not the best offense, top 3 offense in the league. Because I know, Patrick Mahomes. I mean, of course, Mahomes always gets the nod over most things. And then the Baltimore offense, which struggled last week, we'll see if they bounce back. We'll talk about that in a few moments. But Dallas has everything you need. Now it looks like, though, the offensive line is sort of taking that dip back where you expected them to be a strength, now maybe turning into a weakness. And the fact that now you have on one side Olivier Vernon, the other side Myles Garrett, Dak Prescott's going to be under siege. Last week, Seattle couldn't get to him at all. The week before, Atlanta couldn't get to him at all. Those are 2 really bad defenses. Now you're going to get a step up from a talent perspective from Cleveland. We'll see if it plays out today. But a good one to watch early on, though, and I'm interested to see. And again, we're talking at about 56.5 as an over. So us DFS guys that you're looking to get some matchups, man, it's a lot of plus matchups here across the board. 261, 262. What do you think? Go ahead.
I was going to say, best matchup on paper, Jarvis Landry and Odell Beckham against Jordan Lewis on the slot. We talk about it every week. Yeah. Attack Jordan Lewis. You will get fantasy points. The problem this week is you got to trust Baker Mayfield, who's really hard to trust.
And that's it in a nutshell. And that's what like if I can get the old like 250, 2 touchdowns, maybe 1 turnover out of Baker Mayfield, they will be in this football game. But if it's that one where you're first and goal and he throws that stupid interception across the middle because he was trying to make a play, those are the ones that are going to get you angry. But we'll see how that plays out. I'm looking forward to it. Should be a fun game to watch here during the 1 o'clock hour. Next game, we'll talk about Minnesota and Houston. Kirk Cousins, finally, the Minnesota offense woke up last week against Tennessee. Now they're going to take on Houston. And the knock on Houston has been, yes, they're 0-3. We understand that. But you do have to take it with a grain of salt and say, now, hold on. They played 3 elite football teams here in the NFL. And now maybe taking a little bit of a breather going up against a defense they should be able to do some damage with. Going over the inactives list, I didn't see the final. So I'm bringing it up right now. Houston looks like Kiki Kuti. So everybody they need is going to be in this football game. I'm only listing 5 inactives out of the 7 that you would have, or 6, excuse me. 6 or 7 that you would have. So I'm going to go ahead that Will Fuller is going to be active in this game and all his weapons, Brandon Cooks. That is a plus there for Houston in this game. But that line opens up 4.5, drops to 3.5, and an over-under that opened up early in the week at 54.5, now down to 53.5. I think Deshaun Watson here, Kyle, has a really big game because I'm not in love with that defense for the Minnesota Vikings. He should have time to throw. His wide receivers should be able to get open. David Johnson out of the backfield, he should have a good game on the ground. But also on the opposite side, I was waiting for the offense of the Minnesota Vikings to wake up. They did a nice job last week against Tennessee. Dalvin Cook is explosive. Adam Thielen comes into play. The young wide receiver out of LSU, he's stepping up to the plate now. So I see some points in this game. If I got to take 52.5 outside of just a Bill O'Brien collapse on offense and Deshaun Watson holds the ball for 32 seconds and gets sacked 7 times, I think this game goes over.
Yeah, me too. I love this game, and I love the Houston Texans. You look at Minnesota, you worry, how prepared are they going to be for the game? Now, Mike Zimmer is a terrific coach, of course. But again, they did not get a full slate of practices this week. There was a lot of apprehension after they played Tennessee last week, and we've sort of seen what's happened with Tennessee. So it's kind of a miracle that no one from Minnesota tested positive. Thank goodness. So, they weren't allowed in their building until Thursday, right? You brought up a great point. Houston has went through the gauntlet the first 3 weeks of the season. The Chiefs, the Ravens, the Steelers. We're talking 2 of the best 3 defenses in the NFL. And then they played against the best offense in the NFL week 1 in that season opener. I like Houston a lot. It's actually my double up lock of the week on my pick 6. I like Houston -3.5. I also like the prop of David Johnson over 2.5 catches. I think he's involved in the passing game today. I think there's points in this game. Both defenses are bad. It's just the Houston offense is so much better than that Minnesota defense. And I don't think I could say the same. The Minnesota offense is better than the Houston defense, but not so much better. I give the edge to Houston, and I like them quite a bit at -3.5. And if I was betting the total, I would go the over.
You're right. And as much as we hate Bill O'Brien and don't like the structure of the organization, money is still money and still matches up because, yes, on the outside, the hater in me, which is a lot of hater in me, looks at this and goes, there's no way I'm taking Houston. I hate the head coach. Quarterback holds the football in too long. But again, it would be a lot different scenario if they had the Giants, the Jets, and the Dolphins, let's just say, for their first 3 games. Say, hey, they're heading in worst case scenario 2-1. That's a good football team. Now you're looking at it from the opposite end of the spectrum. He might get fired soon. But again, They played 3 elite football teams, and now you're not going to get a so elite football team, or maybe before the season we thought might have been an elite football team in the Minnesota Vikings. Not the case. So an interesting dynamic that flows into that. We like to take a look at like the psychology of it, saying, wait a second, I hate Houston. They're 0-3. They stink. But you got to see exactly who they played over the first couple weeks, and we'll see how that plays out in this game.
Yeah.
One of the more talked about games that we've seen this week, and Russell Wilson just throws 5 touchdowns every game. Doesn't matter who's in, who's out. Doesn't matter if he has a defense or an offensive line. He just keeps moving the football down the field and punching in points. Now, today, he's going to go up against Ryan Fitzpatrick, who you look at their early schedule here. They've played very well in the season. Got a nice little cover against the Buffalo Bills. Should have had a cover week 1 on the road versus the New England Patriots, if not for a Fitzmagic interception late in that game. They really put it to the Jacksonville Jaguars. They're extra rested for this game. When you take a look at Seattle, that injury report throughout the week was amazing. They're down a few guys in their secondary and on their defense. It does look like, starting running back Chris Carson is going to play in this game, which I don't know how smart that is overall, but then again, he's probably not going to be receiving, 15 to 20 carries in the game. He's active. He's ready. Coach, I can give it a go. All right. We'll let you see what you can do. But if we're taking a look at the lines, opened up at 54. Now we're seeing it a little bit higher this week, 55s and 55.5s across the board. But that number is going down lower as early as Friday. I put out a video as my best bet and banker of the week. I did take Miami at 6.5. Those are 4.5s across the board right now. And I really agree with that. Do I want to bet against Russell Wilson? Does anybody want to bet against Russell Wilson? But if you're going to bet against him due to circumstances, this looks like it's probably the best game to go after, because Seattle can win their one possession game, Kyle, and you can still cover that spread.
Exactly. I loved it a whole lot more earlier in the week at 6.5 and 7, because we talk about it. Russell Wilson plays close games all the time. And another interesting thing is Carlos Hyde, the backup running back, who I like everyone else, went and jumped to grab on the waiver wire because we thought Chris Carson was going to miss. Carlos Hyde's now going to miss. You're probably going to see a lot more Travis Homer, as more of kind of a receiving speed back. And if Chris Carson isn't up to full strength, you're going to see Russell Wilson throwing the ball even more than he usually does. If you took a look at the Sportsbook Review on Twitter this week, my favorite prop bet of the week is Ryan Fitzpatrick going over 1.5 touchdowns. I think you can lock that in. That could be done by the end, in 1.5 quarters. And in my pick 6, I actually took the over 54. I locked in the over 54. I think there's a lot of points scored in this game. You mentioned the injuries for Seattle. No Jamal Adams, no Quentin Dunbar. No Byron Jones for Miami. Devontae Parker should be healthy after having that extra 10 days off. Love this game. Should be a lot of points. Should be a lot of passing. You just hope it's not that breakdown, that fall apart game that Ryan Fitzpatrick can do every now and then. I don't see that happening in this game. That Seattle secondary has been absolutely horrendous, even with Jamal Adams. Now you lose your best player in the secondary. It's not going to get any easier. When I look at the 4.5s, I got to take Seattle. When I see this, 5.5s, you're not seeing any more 6s. I lean Miami. It's real dicey there. If it was 6.5, I'd be on Miami all day long. I wouldn't even mind, buying a couple points there and taking it to 6.5 and just feeling better about that, because this feels like it could be one of those 4-5 point Russell Wilson wins again on the road, 35-30, last minute touchdown. 4.5s, I jump on Seattle. I guess 5.5, 6.5, I'd lean Miami. It's tough.
Yeah, I mean, there's those numbers are gone at this point, but I can see the point in there, because if we always think they played a one possession game last week and theoretically probably should have won and not covered, but they actually covered that football game. It's one that you line up and say, we don't think Miami is as good an overall football team as Seattle is. But when you're catching teams off tough situations and a lot of injuries, because the one thing that we bring up is what you said here. Now, if you get one of those lower end Ryan Fitzpatrick games, but the reason why you would get a lower end Ryan Fitzpatrick games is if somebody's front four is just collapsing the pocket all over the place. Seattle doesn't do that. Seattle doesn't get any pass rush whatsoever, which I always thought it was interesting. As much as I guess they hated Jadeveon Clowney, boy, he would look really good in uniform for them, at least moving the pocket and moving a quarterback around. I think Fitzpatrick's going to have a lot of time today to deliver. And again, that's why that number is 55 and not 45 in this one. So a good game at 1 o'clock to watch. We're going to stay in the state of Florida for the next game. 265, 266. Chargers, Tampa Bay. Herbert, the rookie, versus the old grizzled veteran, greatest of all time, Tom Brady. Taking a look across the board, opens up at 7. I'm actually surprised by this a little bit, because you know me, Kyle, you know my philosophy. It's very hard for me to get involved in a game with a rookie, number one, or to get in game with a rookie going against a pretty good football team, which Tampa Bay is, and getting involved with a rookie going on the road. Now, it's a little bit calmed down this year because you're not having to go into a hostile environment per se, 75,000, 80,000 people screaming while you say, hey, I never experienced this before. I'm used to being home and it's not really that loud because I'm on offense. But now you look in this environment, I like the way Herbert's played. Back-to-back 300-yard games. You're looking at, Chris Godwin down. Scotty Miller is going to play in this game as well as Mike Evans. So the weapons are still there for Tom Brady. But I have the feeling here that they're going to try to control this game and slow it down. You still have some decent pass rushers over on that side with Bosa, with the Chargers. Still have a semblance of a pretty good secondary, even though obviously he didn't even start the season with Derwin James. I look for this game to be a little bit lower scoring, but it's so hard in the NFL, Kyle. Opens up at 45. Now we're seeing 42.5. Mm-hmm. Everything has to go right primarily to stay under that total, even though I think it should play out that way. I think Tampa Bay can get an early lead. You saw last week what they did to Denver. Boat raced them and took the second half off because they said, you know what? This offense can't do much versus meaning the Denver Broncos. But you do get a little bit more weapons here. Austin Eckler's coming in, still have a good wide receiving core, and the rookie has the ability to stretch the field. So looking at this game, I actually like the Chargers getting the 7.5 here, which is something I don't normally do.
Yeah, I like the Chargers getting 7.5 too. It's just too big, too big of a line. If it, a couple points lower, if we're talking 5.5 or 6 or something, I might lean Tampa Bay. But I like the Chargers to cover, and I actually took the over 42.5. This feels like one of those 27-24, 24-20 type of games, and you mentioned it. These offenses have to play really bad. Everything has to go right. I can't sit there and root for the under in that game. I mean, we sort of went over this with the Denver Jets game on Thursday night, and we're like, oh, this is going under, and they exploded. Now, these are two much better football teams. You're going to see a lot less sloppy play, obviously. But 42.5 these days in the NFL just seems too low. I mean, the average game right now, I think, is going 49 points. It's the highest in the history of the league. You got warm weather there. You might get a little bit of a drizzle, but nothing to really affect this game from what I can tell. Again, I'm not a meteorologist. But I like the over 42.5. I think both these teams get in the 20s. I think it's a closer game, and the Chargers cover it, plus 7.5.
Over 400 people watching, 410 to be exact in here, 54 thumbs up. Awesome stuff, guys. You guys bring that heat each and every Sunday. And I always like to say on the channels here, Kyle, like time is money. Like we don't want to be sitting here with you guys say, hey guys, watch our 2.5 hour football show to get ready for kickoff. We want to get in. We want to get you guys out with a couple minutes before the game start off and certainly have some fun. But I love looking at the chat box as we're going back and forth. It's nice also to have a great co-host with Kyle because, as he's talking, I can scan the chat box. I don't have to pay attention to Kyle when he's talking. So we do enjoy a lot of fun. So I give a compliment and then a backhand at the same time over here.
That's good. We don't want the head growing bigger. That's very
look at Donnie's complimenting me right now. Wait a second. Is he actually taking a shot? You never know. So good stuff here. Let's keep going. 269, 270. Baltimore and Washington. Lamar Jackson, Dwayne Haskins. If we're looking at a mismatch of the week, this is probably going to be it. Even though there's another spread out there we're going to talk about in a couple minutes that is right around 13-14. 7 out of every 10 tickets coming in. Line opens up at 13, has now moved to 14 across the board, and rightfully so. I got to tell you, giving out picks or taking plays or betting it yourself, I was waiting this morning because I'm not really into taking 14s, which means you have to win by probably 17 plus or 21 points in a game, which I do think the Baltimore Ravens will do. But I was waiting that last minute saying, are they going to hold Terry McLaurin out? Because if they do, it is going to be on and popping in this game where I don't know what is going to happen to Washington at this point and Dwayne Haskins. He probably wouldn't make it through the game, and they'd have to, pull him from the game or sub in and put their second string quarterback in, where you already see the rumors coming out during this. Hey, if Dwayne Haskins doesn't play, what is he supposed to do? I don't think Dwayne Haskins is a good quarterback. When you sit back and you say, you guys drafted me, didn't help me at all, and now you're pulling me in games where I have even less weapons against teams that are supposed to make runs into the Super Bowl. So, hey, Dwayne Haskins, you're going to make a lot of money. Maybe you can latch on to another organization that will actually help you out. But when the new regime comes in, like Ron Rivera, they often look for their own quarterbacks and that their regime actually drafted, and he's not one of them. But back to this game, I don't think this ends well for the Washington Redskins. I really don't. It's hard to go first half bet in this game and say, well, I'm going to lay the 7.5 for the 8 because you have to be up double digits. You guys have heard me talk about even the chat box. You look at other games and just makes sense, right? If you look at this game and break it down to its common element, would you be surprised if this game is 21-3, 21-6, 17-6, 17-7 at the half? I would be shocked if the Baltimore Ravens were not up double digits at the half, especially after the way they came out and played versus the Kansas City Chiefs. I think this game is a runaway, and I think they're going to be up in the half. I think it's double digits at the half. I like them first half, but it's still hard to wrap around and say, wait a second, it's not even 7 or 6.5 where you got to be up a touchdown. You must be up double digits at the half. I think the Ravens are, though, Kyle. I do.
Yeah, I mean, there's a great chance that it happens. And you mentioned the Dwayne Haskins stuff. Ron Rivera apparently had a meeting with him this weekend and said, look, if you don't improve, we're going to put in Kyle Allen. Kyle Allen, remember, was the Carolina quarterback. He was okay. You know, he wasn't terrible of replacing Cam Newton last year in Carolina, but my goodness, so let's add more pressure to a quarterback with absolutely no weapons. Did they hold Terry McLaurin out? He was inactive, right? They are holding, or was he active?
No, he's playing. He's playing today.
Terry McLaurin's going to play. I don't really care. Now, he is the one weapon that they have, but my goodness, this Baltimore defense pissed off after a bad Monday night showing. Going to come into what? Now, I don't bet games that are 14.5. One number I do like, I look at some books have -3 Baltimore in the first quarter. I like that because I think Baltimore comes out red hot. So 10-0, 14-0 at the end of the first quarter actually does make a lot of sense to me. Start getting into those 8s at the half and the 14.5s for the game. You start to get nervous, but then it's almost like you're overthinking that because Washington's so bad. And this Baltimore defense is so good. Where is the advantage for Washington anywhere? It just doesn't exist. So the pick for me, I like Baltimore at the end of the first quarter. The first half makes me nervous, but I think you're right. They're probably up double digits, and they probably do win this game by more than 14.5. I didn't put any of my official money on it just because I don't like doing that with those sort of college football type spreads because anything can happen late in the game.
Right.
And
yep.
So right now, I guess my favorite bet would be Baltimore -3 in the first quarter, but I do think they win this game by double digits.
Yeah, the only hard part about the first quarter is because even you run into this a little bit when you take a first half wager is because you don't know who actually gets the ball first. So you always like to get the extra possession in the first half, but it's even more so the extra possession in the first quarter because let's just say Washington gets the football and I don't know, maybe they go 6 plays, go out to the 50-yard line, dump it down to the 1. Now you're looking at basically one chance for the Baltimore Ravens to drive, 97 yards and at least get a field goal for a push, but need a touchdown because if they don't come up with points on that drive, then you're really in the back seat. But I agree. I'm shocked if they're not up. I'm shocked if this game doesn't end up like in that, 34-14 type range. It just seems like it's going there like 34-17, which means you still might have had a decent game for the Washington Redskins, but you still got piped in this game. So that 14 doesn't look all that bad the more you talk about it. It's just the sticker shock of when you look at it. And most people see the 14. I'll keep moving on. I'll try to find a better game out there. I think they do take care of their business today. And I love the fact they're off a loss.
I do like one prop from this game. Defensive or special teams touchdown. I think Baltimore can absolutely have a pick 6 in this game. You're getting plus 214. So if you're looking to throw a few bucks on this game to make it interesting and root for something, how about a defensive touchdown? Anytime Dwayne Haskins is on the field, especially against a good defense, a pick 6 is on the table. Plus 214 defensive touchdown. Not my favorite prop bets to do all the time, defensive touchdowns. This one I might throw a little Skrilla at it.
Elliot V says, breakout game for Washington today. I mean, if we're breaking out of like a wet paper bag, maybe. I don't know. So,
Yeah, no.
It'll be interesting. Like, I don't think I'm going to be spending much time on this game, except if I'm looking at it like, oh my goodness, like Washington's up 10-0 at the end of the first quarter. That would be something that would be shocking. I'll tell you one game that's not going to be shocking is we get to some of these 4 o'clock games, 271, 272, the New York Giants, who didn't even force the 49ers and their band of backups to punt last week. Now we're going to take on, what looks to be an offensive juggernaut machine ready to get going again this week against an undermanned defense and, quite frankly, an undermanned offense. Now, this game, it's kind of funny, Kyle, because you look at these 2 games back to back, right? Both around that, let's just say 14 range. Obviously, Baltimore's 14 to 14.5. This game primarily 13.5 around that number with juice. So it looks like it might be heading to the 14 number. I do think it's still going to be a butt whipping by the Rams, but I get more of that extra butt whipping feeling from the Baltimore Ravens versus Washington than I do from the Giants and the Rams. I think the Rams are going to be able to do whatever they want, but you still have a semblance. I don't know, maybe a Daniel Jones might be able to make a couple plays. Golden Tate, maybe Evan Ingram can step up a little bit. I just have a feeling that this game, and again, I don't know if it's going to be close because the Giants were pathetic last week. They have a head coach that should not be a head coach in the Football League. He's in a really bad situation here, which I think if the losing continues, he's going to get even more like middle school football coach. I'm the coach. You'll listen to me. Here's my whistle. Take a lap and do some gassers type coach, which I don't think works in the NFL. But if I'm going to take a dog, I'm certainly not taking the Washington Redskins. I might take a flyer on the Giants if it's plus 14, but these games don't interest me all that much to begin with anyway.
No, as soon as I see those unless I can find – the only way I'm betting these games is if I'm betting the underdog, and it's because I can find a reasonable excuse.
Where they might win. Yeah, where they actually have a shot.
Yeah, that they have a shot. I need to see something encouraging from that team, and I don't know how you could be encouraged by what you saw out of the New York Giants. I mean, the 49ers literally were on their second-string quarterback, their third and fourth-string running backs. They didn't have any of their wide receivers. Maybe Brandon Ayuk was there. They lost their starting tight end was out. They lost their second-string tight end early in the game, and they still beat the brakes off them. Now you're coming in to L.A., the Rams coming off a hard-fought loss in Buffalo. They've been on the East Coast back-to-back weeks in Philly and Buffalo. Now they're at home. And that offense looks to be really good. And the injury to Cam Akers has only done one thing, is let them see that Darrell Henderson Jr. is actually a good player. They're giving him the football. They have matchups across the board. James Bradbury can't stop anyone. He, was a decent cornerback for Carolina. So you've got the matchup out there with Robert Woods, and you've got the matchup in the slot with Cooper Kupp. The Rams should move the ball easily. Then you've got Aaron Donald. Like, is there any quarterback more prone to a strip sack fumble than Daniel Jones? I'm not sure that there is. And then you've got maybe Wentz. I'm trying not to beat up on your team too much,
Oh, we are going to.
I can't wait to do it. And that's because they made me cry as a kid. And we'll get to that game in just a moment. But, like, I don't have any of my money on this. If I was going to bet it, the proverbial gun to the head, make a pick. I mean, I think the Rams win by more than 2 touchdowns. The Giants are just terrible. You just kind of worry about that late cover, if the Rams sort of take their foot off the gas and try to avoid the injuries. They're up 30-10, and then all of a sudden on the last drive, they get a touchdown. It's 30-17, and you lose your bet by half a point. But I like the Rams. The Giants are just bad. They're really, really bad. They're one of the worst teams in the league. I mean, you have to consider them one of the worst teams in the league. If you can't lose to a backup squad at home like that, like what happened last week, pretty embarrassing. I like the Rams.
Yeah, I mean, take a look today at the NFC East again. When we laugh at my squad, which I always rep, and it is what it is. Fandom is fandom. The That's Eagles, they should get pounded today, which we'll talk about. The New York Giants, they should get pounded today. And then you flip it over and you say the Washington Redskins should get pounded today. And then you leave it up to the, obviously we know that the Dallas Cowboys are favorites, but if they lose, like, look at this division. Like, you have to, forget about the Cowboys who are favored at home. Look at the other 3 teams in the division going on the road. I mean, could we even see, because we'll talk about it in a second here, the Eagles are now getting 9. You can have 3 teams in one division getting double digits.
It's crazy.
Somebody's got to look that up. I mean, that's got to be one of the more astounding things that I've ever seen of how poor a division can actually be. But let's keep moving here. Good game that got switched. I'm glad it did, because we obviously had the COVID positivity test for Cam Newton, which moved that game to Monday Night Football, which stay tuned for tomorrow night. We are going to have a nice, or at least we'll be on the air for parts of both of those games, but certainly probably going to switch it over and go live on that Chiefs game versus New England Patriots. But moving into the 4:00 slot, I'm glad, because Indianapolis and Chicago, I did want to watch this game and spend a lot of time. So this should be the national CBS game. Taking a look at this game, Phillip Rivers, obviously we know is going to be going for Indianapolis. Struggled a little bit in the first game, but he's almost 80% completions on the year. Handled their business their last 2 football games. The Bears improved their offense and overall outlook. They're unbeaten this year. Now Nick Foles takes the helm from Mitchell Trubisky, which is a great move. But you're looking at a couple things in this game. Early in the week opens up at 2.5. We're now seeing 3s with heavy juice across the board. Even DraftKings and also Rivers now showing -3.5 in the favor for the Indianapolis Colts. And I do agree with that. It's a low over-under, some windy conditions, cooler conditions here at Soldier Field. So we're looking at that 43 range. I think overall, Indianapolis is a better football team. I love their offensive line. They should, you're not going to dominate the Bears front 4. Obviously, any team with Khalil Mack is not an outright domination, but they have the components to be able to crank up that running game, use their play action. You still have T.Y. Hilton on the outside. If you take a look at that Chicago Bears defense, it seems vaunted, but when you get behind the numbers, if DeAndre Swift catches a pass in Detroit, that's 30 points that Detroit put up against, without Kenny Golladay versus the Bears. And then you look, they had a nice game against the the New York Giants, but the Giants were basically first and goal to win that game at the end of the football game with no Saquon Barkley and Sterling Shepard and a walking triage unit. And then you saw last week against the Chicago Bears, against the Atlanta Falcons, the Bears give up 26 points without Julio Jones. So there's a lot of teeth and a lot of barking from that Chicago team, but not a lot of bite right now. And also keep in mind, there's one football coach in the NFL right now that knows what Nick Foles loves to do and what he doesn't like to do. And that's actually the head football coach of the Indianapolis Colts, and Frank Reich. The most success Nick Foles has ever had is under Frank Reich, redesigning an offense that works for him. He knows exactly what Foles does not like to do and what he likes to do, and that's going to play into it. I love Frank Reich as a head football coach. I think they get a job done today. I'm taking the Colts here.
I do like the Colts. One thing to keep in mind, Michael Pittman, the young rookie wide receiver, got put on IR, and he's sort of the perfect type of wide receiver. Phillip Rivers, one of those taller, athletic players who can jump up and catch those, bread bags that he throws up in the shot put float. It reminds me of the old Tecmo Bowl days. Remember when you had a bad quarterback in Tecmo Bowl, the ball would fly out of the screen and then lob back down. That's Phillip Rivers nowadays.
Sure.
This game has been tough for me all week. I've gone back and forth. You make a great point about Nick Foles. Rumor has it that he was actually lobbying to Frank Reich to bring him to Indianapolis instead of Phillip Rivers. And then Frank Reich said, nah, we're going to take Phillip Rivers. So there might be some of that little revenge narrative there if you look into those sorts of things for Nick Foles. But you made great points. I mean, barely beating the New York Giants, who got beat by the backups of the 49ers badly. Yeah. Basically should have lost that game to Detroit if DeAndre Swift catches that pass. And then, of course, Atlanta bails him out because apparently Atlanta can never keep a lead. It's one of those, they can't. I mean, it's one of those live bet teams, right? You just wait for them to get ahead, and then you live bet them to lose and get some of that extra value. But I got to take the Colts. I don't like taking road favorites. We've talked about this a lot, but again, no fans there. Colder conditions. I'm staying away from the totals. Colts just feel like a better football team, number one ranked defense in the league. And I've been seeing a lot of people saying, they haven't played anyone. Their defense is no good. I mean, are we really saying the Jacksonville offense is that bad? I don't think that we are. And Tennessee, who's the other game they played? I can't remember.
They held them down. They smoked the Jets.
Smoked the Jets, obviously. Yeah. And I like that Colts defense. Xavier Rhodes seems to be rejuvenated there. Like the Colts, just think they're a better team. I stayed away from this game. It was just too much 50-50. I won't be shocked if the Bears win at home. It won't be like, oh, my God, I can't believe that happened. But right now, I'd say the Colts are the better team, and they're the pick in this game.
Yeah, because you're looking also excuse me, I got it mixed up here. The Jets was obviously in week 3, but Jacksonville game, even though you look at the final score and say, hey, they lost 27-20 in that game, look at the defensive numbers. 91 yards on the ground and only 150 in the air Jacksonville had. If you just looked at that box score result and said, oh my God, they probably went off and you probably had a great game out of Minshew. They didn't do anything. Then you flip it over to Minnesota, who has the capability to do a lot. 80 yards on the ground, 95 yards in the air, completely embarrassed them. Then you beat the Jets last week, 36-7, whitewash them. So you're going to get some yards in junk time, and they only got 109 yards on the ground and 151 in the air. It's a really good defense, and a defense that most people don't look for as a good defense. You'll get somewhat of a test today because Nick Foles is going to bring a competent offensive structure. But again, Tariq Cohen is out there, so that screen pass is no longer there. You're more of a plotting offense from the backfield position. But, hey, Allen Robinson might do well, but you're right. Xavier Rhodes, we're looking at Pro Football Focus. He's the number 1 ranked cornerback in the NFL, which is astounding based off of where he was for the past couple of years. Yeah. So looking over, Frank Reich is the head coach. I think when you take a look at Bill Belichick going into a game, he's the better coach, and the scheme is going to be right. Frank Reich is sensational at game planning, and I don't trust Matt Nagy all that much. No. I think it sets up well for Indianapolis, and that's the way I'm going to go in this game. 4:00, Buffalo heads out to the Death Star to play the Las Vegas Raiders, who have no problem showing up to functions, not wearing masks, hugging with fans and taking pictures, and then all of a sudden saying, oh, man, yeah, you know what? We slipped a little bit, man. My bad. I don't know. I go into every food store, I have a mask on because everybody has a mask on. I never just went anywhere without a mask over the last 5 months. But, hey, man, hey, guys, what's up, man? No big deal. I don't have a mask. I just don't understand their way of thinking, but I don't think that's going to play into the game. It just shows you a little bit about where the Raiders' mindset is. Buffalo opens up as a 3-point favorite, staying at a 3-point favorite. Over under across the board, 49.5, and now seeing 52s as high as 53s at William Hill and PointsBet. So we're getting up there a little bit. But what has shown us from the Buffalo Bills that A, they can't score, and B, they're going to give up points. This is just what they do now. I think it still sets up well for an over, unless John Gruden says the only way to slow this Bills offense down is hand off to my all-world young running back and maybe use some play action to my tight end. I think it plays to an over, but I'm not trying to get so sharp and take the Raiders here. I'm just not, though.
No, I'm taking Buffalo. They're in my pick six. I think this is pretty easy for me. Now, the one thing you worry about Buffalo is they seem to be giving up these late leads, sort of Atlanta-esque. Like last week, they made me sweat that out. It was one of my bankers of the week. And they're up 28-3, and the next thing you know, they're losing that football game. Luckily, they were able to hold on to it, but they just have too much. And the Raiders, I mean, you're throwing out Nelson Aguilar and both Henry Ruggs and Bryan Edwards looks like they're going to be out for this game. They're listed as doubtful as the last time I looked.
Yes.
So now you're down to Aguilar and Hunter Renfrow. And I think Buffalo wins this game easily. I like Josh Allen a lot today for DFS. Same with Stephon Diggs, Devin Singletary. Buffalo's defense has not been as good as we expected so far. They have seemed a bit vulnerable, which has been strange, even against Miami. Down there when they had that little delay. They almost blew that game at the end of the fourth quarter too. So Sean McDermott, they need to tighten that up for sure. But Josh Allen is absolutely on a roll. You'd say he's one of the top 4 or 5 MVP candidates. I remember these old Raiders-Bills games, if I remember an AFC championship game back in the early 90s where the Bills beat them 51-3.
Jay Schrader style, baby. Yeah, sure.
Schrader team, that's absolutely right. And it won't shock me if it's ugly like that in this game. I don't think it'll get that ugly, but I think the Raiders win. Like I would take the Raiders the Bills -6, 6.5, because I think they win by more than a touchdown. So I'm really happy to get this at 3 and 3.5.
Yeah, and I'm going to go that way, and I don't want to try to out-sharp myself. I like the fight that the Vegas Raiders have put up this year, but I think they're a little bit outclassed, and until I see somebody able to slow that Buffalo offense down, I'm sort of leaning on that defense to snap back a little bit. Maybe this is the week. I thought it might have been last week when they say, oh, my God, 28-3. They are bouncing the Rams offense, and that game turned on the head quick. So if you had Buffalo last week, you're just getting off that roller coaster saying, you know what? I don't know if I want to get back on this roller coaster this weekend, but I think it's a pretty good shot to do it. Sunday night football tonight. I don't know. I guess it's on at night. I'm older. Maybe I can get to sleep by the half. Philadelphia and San Francisco, Wentz and Mullins, if you look at this. And if I would have told you before the season, Carson Wentz and the Philadelphia Eagles are going to go out and play in front of no fans in San Francisco, Nick Mullins will be the starting quarterback. Just about every name you know on defense is not going to play for the 49ers, but yet they're going to almost be a double-digit favorite. You would say, what the hell went wrong? And I would say, every single thing possible for the Philadelphia Eagles went wrong. They're going to head into this football game with legitimate practice wide receivers across the board. Now, we call Greg Ward a practice squad guy. He performed last year, came into this year, made the football team. So he's not necessarily one, but it's still Greg Ward. It's still like a 5'11" wide receiver with not a ton of speed, but has good hands and can get open over the middle. And you have nothing else. You have Zach Ertz, a tight end, who's a great pass-catching tight end. He can catch 100 balls a year, 7 yards down the field and fall down. That's what he does. You're looking at an offensive line that's down now to its third-string left tackle. And if anybody that doesn't really pay attention all that much to football, your left tackle protects your quarterback's backside, who is vulnerable. Now they're going to be on to that. 2 underwhelming guards. You have a great center in Jason Kelce, a great right tackle in Lane Johnson, and not much else. We've been just saying, just give it to Miles Sanders. But every week after the game, Doug Peterson comes on and says, yeah, Miles just has like fatigue issues, which I don't even know where that's going or what the hell is even going on at that. But that's the type of deal we're dealing with in Philadelphia. The defense has no playmakers on defense, has a decent front four and Darius Slay, a cornerback, and not much else behind it. You saw last week a backup band of Warriors for San Francisco stay out on the East Coast, go back in the Giant Stadium, and didn't even punt in that football game. Nick Mullins, to me, honest to God, this isn't just watching over the last 2 weeks or last year. Him and Jimmy Garoppolo are like A1A, to be honest with you. I don't think you downgrade all that much from what Nick Mullins offers to Jimmy Garoppolo. You're getting Kendrick, obviously Bourne's going to be back in this game. Debo Samuel is going to be back. And then you have your tight end, George Kittle, that's going to be back in this game. Fresh off a team, once again, Kyle, that last week didn't even punt against a similar talented team in the New York Giants. I don't know, man. I'm nowhere near the Eagles. Do I want to take 9 in this game now? No. You could have got the 6.5s and the 7s. Yeah. I don't think this shows up very well for the Eagles, and it's not because they don't have a good organization or the head coach isn't right. It's about, as Jimmy Johnson once said, it's about the Jimmies and the Joes, not the X's and the O's. Sometimes if you don't have the Jimmies and the Joes, your X's and O's don't matter here. And this might be bad for the Eagles.
Yeah, and the X's and O's are fantastic for the 49ers, and I think we've seen that over the last couple of weeks with all the injuries. Now, I will say the big difference is obviously Jimmy Garoppolo is the most handsome quarterback in the NFL.
True.
I mean, let's not be ridiculous here. So Jimmy G has got to be the face of my 49ers. But no, Nick Mullins, myself, I have a lot of 49er fans who are my friends as well. We all kind of grew up as 49er fans together. And Nick Mullins, we've liked Nick Mullins since and CJ Beathard for that matter. You're not getting much of a difference. It's not like Jimmy Garoppolo, some dynamic quarterback. And now you see the 49ers getting healthy with Deebo Samuel, George Kittle. One big absence this week, besides all you talked about that, all the defensive linemen, Bosa and Solomon Thomas, D Ford, et cetera. Dre Greenlaw being out at linebacker is a big loss for the 49ers. And I just can't give them 9 points with no Mostert, et cetera. I think they win this game. If I was going to bet this game, I would just put it on one of these like 10-team parlays that I do and make it the money line. I'm not getting a ton of juice on it, but I think the 49ers win. That 9 number makes me very, very nervous. I hope they do it. When I was 12 years old, 13 years old, the Philadelphia Eagles made me cry. Now, my 49ers went on to win the Super Bowl that year. But Charlie Garner and Randall Cunningham and Fred Barnett and Calvin Williams, all them boys came in and they beat my 49ers 40-8. Charlie Garner ran wild on us. I literally cried in that game. Luckily, the very next week, we played the Detroit Lions. We got down 14-0. They started William Floyd, his first start, Frank Pollock at tackle, and we went on a historic run. So I hope the 49ers beat the brakes off your Eagles. I'm sorry. That 9 number makes me really uncomfortable. If it was 6.5, like it was earlier in the week, this line opened at 3.5. It's the biggest line movement that's happened over the last couple of weeks because the Eagles have just been so underwhelming. I'm not placing a bet here. I'm just going to sit back and watch and harass Donnie via Skype while my 49ers are kicking their ass. But that 9 number's a bit big for me.
Yeah, as long as I can cash it in at that point, I certainly like it. But look at that. Would it be 50 minutes through the show? Covered the entire card today. Now, there are some games, obviously a doubleheader tomorrow, that we will be going over on our Monday Night Football show. We don't have the exact time set up, but I'm going to assume we're going to be on the air early and get you ready for that Chiefs-Patriots game, which now is the line movement up to 11 in the spot. Going over the pick 6 picks that I had this week, I have it written down on my board here. Colts -2.5, Detroit +4, Cleveland 4.5, Miami getting 6.5, the Chargers getting 7, and Buffalo -3. Do you have your pick 6 picks there, Kyle, that you had this week?
I do. I've got Houston -3.5. I've got the Seattle-Miami game going over 54. I've got Dallas -4.5, so that'll be fun to give each other crap for that one. That'll be fun. I've got Buffalo -3 over the Raiders. I've got the Chargers-Tampa going over 42.5. I just think that's too low. I think both teams get in the 20s there. And then with you, I have Detroit +3, so I got in a little late. You got a better number there. But I still think Detroit wins that football game.
No, I certainly do. And my banker and best bet of the week, which we always give out on Friday. So if you're not following those SBR, channels and videos that certainly shoot those out, please feel free to do so at SBR Sports Picks. You can get those. I gave out the Dolphins, which was 6.5 when I gave it out. Now we're seeing that line dip all the way down to that 3.5, range and whatever. 4.5. I'm sorry, 4.5 range.
Yeah.
Your prop bet. You do a prop bet each week. What did you give out this week on that?
For me, it feels easy. Ryan Fitzpatrick over 1.5 passing touchdowns. You're getting minus 145. Lock that in. And my game of the week, I like Houston over Minnesota. I think that's my banker of the week as well on the board.
There you go. In and out. 5 minutes till kickoff. Thank you guys for spending your Sunday morning / early afternoon with us here. Over 400 plus people in the chat box for the primary margin of the show. That is awesome stuff. So many people have subscribed to the sportsbookreview.com network, and we're going to keep on plugging along each and every season. There's a lot of talent here across our lineup. We do appreciate you guys coming in and out and saying hello in the chat box. I'm Donnie Seymour. He's Kyle Purviance. We are sportsbookreview.com, and this was your NFL Sunday show.